Hello students and welcome to the lecture. So students, as we noted, we are covering the scheduled and the tribal areas, right? This is the topic on which we have been discussing right now. And basically within this particular series of the scheduled and the tribal areas, okay, all of these are the topics we have scheduled for the discussion. Like starting with the introduction part, thereafter the scheduled areas in India, an overview of it. Then criteria for the identification of scheduled areas, constitutional provisions and the governance, concerns related to the scheduled areas, administration of the scheduled areas, scheduled tribes, okay, general concerns of the tribal community, addressing the challenges, significance of the indigenous communities, problems that are being faced by the tribal groups, conclusion, and the administration of the tribal areas. Right? So these are the topics that we have scheduled for the discussion. If we talk about the topics that we have covered so far, then basically we have done with the introduction part. We have done with the scheduled areas in India, an overview of it. We have done with the criteria for the identification of scheduled areas. We have done with the constitutional provisions and the governance that we have for them. We have done with the concerns related with the scheduled areas. We have done with the administration of the scheduled areas. And we have done with the scheduled tribes. Okay, so these are the topics that we have covered so far. If we talk about the topic we are left with, or you can say the first topic on which we have been discussing. So basically we have been discussing on the general concerns of the tribal community. All right, this is the topic on which we are discussing right now. If we talk about the topic on which we are left with, these are addressing the challenges, indigenous communities, problems being faced by the tribal groups, conclusion, and the administration of the tribal area. Okay, so this is the picture we have created so far altogether. Basically in this lecture we will start from where we had left, but first we will see what we had covered in the previous lecture. Okay, like in the previous lecture when we were discussing about the scheduled and the tribal areas. Okay, like that was a topic on which we were discussing. Basically under this particular thing there was the general concerns of the tribal community. Okay, on which we were discussing, and basically what concern we discussed? We discussed the concern of legal protection. We discussed the concern of legal protection. All right, basically in this we discussed the two important acts. Okay, the first was Right to Fair Compensation and Transparency in Land Acquisition Act, Rehabilitation and Resettlement Act 2013. Like that was the first thing we had discussed about it. All right, in this we discuss what do you mean by the fair compensation. Okay, we discuss the land acquisition, discuss the rehabilitation and resettlement. Okay, and we had discussed that doesn't matter what provisions are provided within this act, still the implementation is often inadequate. Okay, and many tribal communities do not even receive the protections and the compensations that they are promised. Okay. After this, the next what we have is the Biological Diversity Act 2002. Okay. So when we talk about it, then we can say this act basically seeks for the biological diversity. Okay, and ensure the sustainable use of its component, but that act also take cares about the indigenous communities. Why? Because these are largely, or you can say mostly, dependent on the forest and its products for their livelihood and for their survival. Okay, so often they do not benefit from the act. Why? Because of lack of awareness, like what are their rights and all. Even the bureaucratic hurdles are there, and the inadequate implementation. Okay, so this is what we had discussed in the previous lecture. Okay, here I have just tried to provide you an overview of the things. In the previous lecture, I had deeply explained you the facts and figures. Okay, so please remember this thing. Now let's move forward. Thereafter, now we have the consequences. So what are the consequences of these things they are facing? Okay, first is the displacement and marginalization. Okay, displacement and marginalization. If we talk about it, then we can say basically whenever the tribals are asked to displace from the place they are living in. Why? Because of so many developmental projects and all. So basically they are usually forced to relocate without even the adequate compensation. All right, like we know, whatever would be the market value, 5 times of it will be granted in the terms of rural area, 2 times of it will be granted in the terms of urban area. Okay, so that is the fair compensation. Along with this, the tribal is also liable to receive the EDR, the emotional damage recovery. Okay, and we know the EDR is the 100% of it, 100% of the compensation. And we had taken the example, if the 50 lakhs is the fair compensation amount in rural area, 50 plus 50, 100% EDR would be given. 50 plus 50 would be the 1 crore. So total 1 crore would be given to the tribal person. Okay, if the compensation amount was 60 lakhs, okay, then 100% of it, 60 plus 60, would be given to the you can say the tribal person. All right, so that is what we call the compensation and all. But we know first is the thing like the terms and conditions and various kind of provisions that are mentioned under the Fair Compensation, Transparency in Land Acquisition, Rehabilitation and Resettlement Act 2013. That is the proper name. Please keep this thing in your mind. Okay, so the provisions and other things that have been promised in that particular act, these things are not actually implemented on the ground. Okay, so that's why oftenly the tribals who were forced to get displaced from their places, they not receive the adequate compensation. Even after this, if we talk about from the second scenario, so that is no coverage, in scheduled and the tribal areas. How it is? Because of the 2 articles only. Okay, so if we talking about it, then I think I should ask you a simple question, very simple. Okay, which article of the Indian Constitution deals with the scheduled and the tribal areas? Answer this. 30 seconds you guys will have to think and answer. All right, and this is almost 5th to 6th time asking the question, so this time I'm expecting the right answer. Time starts now. Okay, 10 seconds have been passed off. Last 20s are remaining. Last 10 seconds. Okay, the time's up. So basically, Article 244 of the Indian Constitution deals with the scheduled and the tribal areas. Okay, that is the thing. Second question that I'm going to ask you is that Article 6 contains which northeastern states? Again, I'm repeating. Article 6 contain which northeastern states? To answer this, you will have 30 seconds. Time starts now. Alright, 10 seconds have been passed off. Last 20s are remaining. Last 10 seconds are there. Okay, the time's up. Correct answer is Assam, Tripura, Manipur and Mizoram. Okay, Assam, Tripura, Manipur and Mizoram. These are the 4 states the 6th schedule deals with. Okay, and if the second question that I ask you, like which article empowers the President of India to declare any tribe as a scheduled tribe? Again, I'm repeating. Which article of the Indian Constitution empowers the President of India to declare any tribe as a scheduled tribe? Answer this. 30 seconds you will have. Time starts now. Ten seconds have been passed off. Last 20s are remaining. Last 10 seconds. Alright, the time's up. The correct answer is Article 342 of the Indian Constitution. Article 342 of the Indian Constitution basically empowers the President of India to declare any tribe as a scheduled tribe. Okay, so that was the thing. So basically, if we come back to the topic that we were discussing priorly, this basically many tribes of this country that are living exactly as per the eligibility criteria of the scheduled tribes, but still we do not count them as a scheduled tribe. Why? Because there is a one certain reason, and that is they are not crossing the population percentage threshold that has been recommended to the government by the Bhuria Commission in which year? Another question is that Bhuria Commission recommended the population threshold to the government in which year? To answer this question, again, I will give you the 30 seconds. Alright. And your time is going to start now. Ten seconds have been passed off. Last 20s are remaining. Last 10 seconds. Time's up. Correct answer is year of 2002. In the year of 2002, the Bhuria Commission basically recommended the government to having the population threshold. Okay, on the basis of this population threshold, it is decided whether the area is a scheduled area or not. If the area is having the minimum required population, the area will be scheduled area. If not, the area will not be a scheduled area. Okay, because of this, many tribal areas that are having the tribal population, okay, but they are not crossing the minimum threshold that is required, so that's why they are being excluded from the schedule and the tribal areas protection and all. Okay, so because of this, if those areas people are basically getting displaced and marginalized, then they are not entitled to receive the adequate compensation as promised in the Act of 2013, which is the full name of that act. Come on, we have just discussed it. 30 seconds you will have to think and answer, and your time starts now. Ten seconds have been passed off. Last 20s are remaining. Okay, last 10 seconds are there. The time's up. The correct answer is fair compensation, transparency in land acquisition, Rehabilitation and Resettlement Act 2013. Again, I'm repeating: fair compensation, transparency in land acquisition, Rehabilitation and Resettlement Act 2013. Please remember the full name of this act. So basically, the tribes that are not included in this schedule in the tribal areas as per the Article 244, these are not also entitled to these things. Okay. Even if we talk about the rehabilitation, that also leads to the further marginalization and poverty among the tribal community. How? Like I have told you, basically, if there is any external entity or non-tribal entity that wants to encroach the land of the tribals or that want to acquire the land of the tribal, then I have told you, under this Act of 2013, these entities are not only responsible to provide it for the what? Provide it for the compensation and also shown the transparency, but they are also responsible for the rehabilitation and the resettlement, right? So basically, when these entities and these organizations are basically asked, okay, for providing the resettlement areas, then generally they choose the area that are even more remote. Why? Because the costing they will bear, that will be a loss or less, you can say. All right. Secondly, we can say that area was even more cut off than the area that the tribals were previously living in. And why we call it poverty? Because the tribals at the place they are living in, okay, at the place they are living in, basically they are having so many things there. Okay, they are having so many things there, like they know the locality. Okay, they even have the forest resources and they could use it for their livelihood purposes and all. But when they got displaced, when they were asked to move from the area to another area, so basically all of these livelihood options that they had at their native place, all of these would be vanished. Okay, so that's why the rehabilitation that occurs, that is even more marginalized and even more prone to the poverty than the others. Got it? So that is the concept of displacement and the marginalization. I hope that you become aware about this term. Now, if we move forward, the another thing that we have here is the loss of livelihoods. Okay, so what do you mean by the loss of livelihoods? Okay, so basically, if we will try to look it at here, what we will see: inability to access the forest resources. Okay, like the forest provides a various kind of resources to the tribals. Like you can say, they could use the trees for their purposes, like the moringa trees and all. Okay, tendu leaves and all. All right, and basically other kind of forest resources, like the tribals usually, you can say, do the cutting of the woods and the trees and they sell it out in the market for their commercial purposes and for their livelihood matters. Okay, but once they got restricted from doing that thing, then what will happen? They will not be able to do the things that they were doing previously. All right, and how it will be impacted? Like you can say the person who have been collecting the forest resources and selling it to the local market and all, and that's how earning the livelihood. That person would be able, if he got displaced and sent to some urban area, to earn his livelihood. No, not possible. Why? Because when we talk about the urban areas are not had the same needs as the needs were in the forest. Okay, urban areas basically provides a livelihood for the skilled people, and the tribals are generally the you can say the unskilled people. All right, so that's why they generally do not having the that much of access. Okay, and that much of experience and all. Because of this, in order to earn their livelihoods in the new areas, it's very much you can say difficult for them. All right, and they are unable to do it. Okay, thereafter, traditional land access. Okay, like as we had discussed, when we talk about the lands and all, in the modern terms, in the modern laws, basically the landowner would be the person who is having that land in his name through the official registry on the government paper. Okay, that will be a owner. For example, you can say there are two person X and Y. X also having 10 acres of land, Y also having the 10 acres of land. Okay, but there is a condition. What is that condition? Y is having the land that has been transferred to him from his ancestors. There is no legal record of that land. On the other hand, the land that is owned by the X, okay, that land is basically having the registry on the government paper, in which it is clearly mentioned that X would be the owner of that land. If we compare the situation from this point of view, then what do you think? The modern law will consider the person as an owner to whom? X or Y? Clearly Y. Sorry, clearly X. Why? Because X was the person who had the registry. Okay. While on the other hand, the Y is the person who do not having any legal document that states that this land belongs to him. All right. So easily the external entities could encroach the land even after providing the compensation and other kinds of things. Why? Because in such a scenarios, the you can say the tribals becomes the person who are not holding the land actually or legally. Okay, and this code undermines the economic foundation of the indigenous communities. Okay, and also increase the poverty and the food security. All right. Thereafter, the social conflicts. If we talk about it, we can say dispute over the land and resources often lead to a social tensions and conflict between the indigenous communities and external communities. Okay, so you can say whenever the external community tries to encroach the land of the tribal or the land that belong to the tribal, then what usually we see, basically the indigenous communities are generally revolted against it. Why? Because of some disputes that they are having between them. All right, and this could be regarding anything, for the loss of their livelihoods, for the inadequate, okay, and without providing the proper rehabilitation area. Okay, and the external entities could be government entities as well as the private companies. All right, this is the thing. So students, basically in this lecture we have finished till here. In the next lecture we will continue from here. Till then, just revise the facts and figures that all we have discussed in this lecture. Okay, because as so many times I have told you, that is for your own benefit. If you are doing this on the regular basis, thing will be on favor. Not doing this on the regular basis, the thing will be against you. That's it. So with this note, let's end this lecture and thank you.